Good morning, ladies. Welcome to Sunday school. Can you believe how nice it was this week? Nice and warm. Very, very warm. The tablet keeps shutting off. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. And Pastor Joe, do you have an announcement or something that you need to?
I will. You do your first
Okay.
announcement, I'll fix the iPad.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to remind you, ladies, that next Saturday, the 29th, is our ladies' brunch. Not this Saturday. No, the 29th. So I'm thinking it's already sorry, misspoke there. Okay, so the 29th is our ladies' brunch. Now, some of you have already asked, do you need help with anything? Yes, yes, and yes. Okay. So if there's any lady here, and I'm going to write this down here. If there's any lady here that is willing and available to come in on the Friday before to help us get the table set up and help us get the church, it decorated for the event, that would be very helpful. Now, I had asked maybe a month ago that if anybody would like to help with decoration stuff, what I would like is if you can find fake hyacinth flowers. If you don't know what that is, I will show you a picture after church, because I have some ladies that thought they were hydrangeas, but they're not. They are totally different. So I will show you pictures of what a hyacinth, excuse me. See, Judy, you got me messed up here. A hyacinth. Show you what a hyacinth is, and then you have an idea. And I would like pink, white, or purple if possible. If you could get all three, that'll be even better. They do not, now, I would love real ones, but a lot of people are allergic to the smell and stuff of flowers. So we will defer and we will get fake flowers if we can find fake hyacinths. Now, if you have questions on where to find them, find me after church, and I will help you give ideas of where you can find those. But on that Friday, I plan on probably being there about 10 o'clock on the Friday before, so the 28th of April. I'll plan on being here at 10 o'clock on that Friday, so we can get the stuff set up, the photo booth area set up, the tables all set up, and everything ready for the event, okay? Yes, ma'am?
They're only scheduling one day a week of polls, and it's Friday, every Friday. But if I get some flowers, can I bring them in early?
Yes, ma'am, yes. Like with Susie, if you're working and can't be here on that Friday, that's fine, but you're planning on bringing something in, bring it that Sunday before, bring it on the Wednesday, okay? There's always going to be somebody here at the church at some point throughout the week, so if you can't come on Wednesday night or you're not going to be here on Sunday, just call the church and see if there's anybody there so you could drop stuff off, okay? But on that Friday, I'll just need help, as much help as we can get, because it goes a lot quicker, doesn't it, Laura? Laura's helped me, Judy's helped me in the past to help set things up. So if you are available, come find me after church, and I'll make sure we have you signed up for that to help me. Yes, ma'am?
How many flowers do you need altogether?
Let's see, how many vases, Judy, do you remember how many we had? I'll go through and I'll check it, and then I'll let you know how many for the centerpieces and stuff like that, and let you know how many. Yeah, yep.
We can't all buy everyone.
And if we have extras, we could always use them for the church decorations for leftovers. So, Pastor Joe, do you have anything else real quick?
Yep.
Oh, I was going to, but
Yeah.
thank you.
In this class, you're going to be starting your new book, the ICU, In Christ Unconditioned. You'll be starting that next week. And we want to remind you as we get into this, some of you are very, very excited about doing book studies. Some of you have never done book studies before. I encourage you to get the most out of it you can. These books are a great asset to you and your work and your life. If you have not purchased the book yet, we did buy a couple
signed up for
extras, and so you can talk to Kyla about it. We get the book. We don't charge you. I was talking with a pastor friend of mine. He was explaining how they do it for these books. He said, well, listen, what we figured it out is that we charge what the company charges for the book, and then we add in shipping, and then we add in our secretary's time for the ordering, setup, and pickup of the book. I said, okay. They said, you don't do that? I said, no, we try to get it as literally as cheap as possible, because our goal is we believe these types of things are assets. They are tools for your life. Now, this is a great series. It's $8. I do believe it would be a great help to you. If you want to order your own, you can. I think they're like $15. You can buy them on Amazon, but we get them at a discount because we buy them in bulk. I highly recommend you use them. We've used this type of a series in the teen ministry and in the other ladies' ministries in the past. Highly recommend that you start right now looking to invite a friend out to join with you for this class. This is a great Bible study because it doesn't just deal with on Sunday. If you look through these books, you'll notice that it has stuff for you to do during the week. And it's a great opportunity for Dee to connect with Sue, and Sue to connect with Pearl, and then you talk about these books through the week. So if you know someone who likes to do studies and other things like that, this is the series. And how well this series goes will depend on how well the next series happens, if that makes any sense at all. If Susie at the end of this goes, I hate this thing. This is absolutely terrible. I don't want to do this ever again. And that's the feeling of everyone, then we won't do it in the future. I usually find that this works really well, but we do need to know that. So go ahead, get your book. If you're starting this series next week, and I'm being the hard side right now because my wife's just such a nice person. She doesn't push this as much as she wants. She hates doing this part. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're starting this next week, you need the book today because you want to take it home and you want to familiarize yourself with the book. In college, they used to tell us when I was in college, they say, listen, you start your semester of a course, you want to go get your books on the first day. This way you could be ready for school. I remember I had a friend of mine, he didn't get his book till the week before finals. Is it a wonder that he failed the course? So in other words, my point being for all of us is this is a great series. If you cannot afford the book, we will give you the book. Someone asked, well, no, listen, we'll give it to you. We believe in it that much. However, if you can afford the book and you just don't want to pay for it, then don't ask for it, okay? That's because I had someone like me say, listen, I have the money, I just don't want to pay for it. Well, then that's, and you know what, by then, go out, if you ask for it, I'm still going to give it to you because we want you to have it. We believe it'll be a help for you and your family. We really believe in it that much, but we want to promote it for you guys, so look it over. The lady who helped write this book, I really have enjoyed her work throughout the years. I think that you'll enjoy it as well. That's one thing, and then the final announcement we wanted to let you know is we did get a message about an hour and a half ago that the man who wrote our hymnal, Ron Hamilton, passed away early this morning. And many of you have enjoyed many of the songs that we have sang. The song that my kids and the Barkley kids sang the last 2 Sundays were written by Ron Hamilton. He was known as Patch the Pirate. And he's been struggling with dementia and Alzheimer's for the last about 3 years. And he passed away sometime early this morning is what we were told. He was ready to go to heaven. But we're grateful. But we want to pray for the family. Many of you have enjoyed the song, You Are Always Good. His son and him helped write that song together. And many of those songs are Joyce and Lord and things like that. So I just want to give you those information so you could pray for the Hamilton family, and especially his wife, Shelley Hamilton, who has cared for him the last 3 years. Tyler, did I miss anything? Okay. Thank you, folks.
Well, that was like an overview of the book of what to do. But we're going to kind of go more in depth about the stuff in the book, okay? But right now, I know some of you have already signed up, but I need help. I know I passed out some directory information for some of the ladies to call this week for some help with that. But if you know of people that would be interested in just having a nice ladies' day from 10:30 to 12:30 on the 29th, please invite them out. And come let me know if you have, maybe Susie, you have a coworker you would love to bring out to that. Great. Then sign them up and just be like, hey, I have a friend. Okay? Great. Add your name to this list. It'll be in the back. I won't pass it around because a lot of you ladies already signed up. But I will have this in the back. Please sign up. Right now, I think I have about 35 ladies that are signed up. I'm trying to get at least 90 because I know that we'll lose about 10% of that. So we would end up with about 70 or so. So if you have family or friends in the area, or even if they, like Pearl one time had invited her daughter who lives up in Cadillac, right? She's come down from Cadillac and came and had fun. I mean, I know Laura has family up in Cadillac too, right? You know, so her daughter and granddaughter are planning on coming. If they're not a member of the church, that's okay. Dee has family coming and they're not members of the church. It's okay if you have friends that you would like to bring out to this event. I think it'll help them. It's helped me. You know, I've never heard this speaker, but I've heard she's very good. She's unbelievably talented. She speaks, her and her husband speak out at different things. She plays the piano. She sings, you know, she's very gifted. So I think it would be a blessing to her to see ladies here, okay? So, but on that note, I am gonna pass this part around though, because I need a few other things signed up for that event. There's some things that we still need for the ladies brunch on the 29th. If you please, can you please sign up? And if you're like, well, I don't know when to bring it, well, bring it the Sunday before and we'll mark it for the ladies brunch so nobody will touch it for the Wednesday night classes. Okay, Susie?
If we bring something for the brunch, what time should we be here to bring it?
If it's, I think, well, some of the guys will be doing pancakes because it's pancakes, parfaits, and pastries. So as far as I know on there, Sue, is there anything on there for like heated dishes that you can see? I can't remember.
It says healthy dish.
Okay, so if the healthy dish, if you're thinking of bringing like an egg bake or a quiche of some sort, you'll want to bring that about 10 to 10:15, I would say, because you don't want it sitting out too long and then it get nasty. So if you can bring it about that time, because we'll probably be eating right away. And then if it's like refrigerated stuff or something like that, then you could bring it that Sunday, and then we'll just mark it so it's not getting eaten on Wednesday during Master Club time. So if you can help with that, that would be great, okay? Now that I have all those announcements done, we will go ahead and get started here, and I will try and be not too quick where I'm like rushing, but quick enough to where I could get time to explain this new series, okay? So we are going to be talking about feeding of the 5,000. This is one of my very favorite miracles that Jesus does in his ministry, because you think of a little boy like maybe Elijah's age who likes eating everything he sees almost except for meat. Although he's gotten better. Hey, Judy, can you open that side door for me? But he has gotten better at eating meat. But still, you think of a little 7-year-old boy, or maybe younger, who's just standing there looking at this crowd of people that are standing around Jesus. And he's standing there like he's in awe, okay? Well, we're going to be talking about the feeding of the 5,000. And I have the wrong reference verse on your paper that is on the screen. The screen reference is different than the reference that's on your paper. I forgot to correct it on your paper. So I have on the screen John 6, 1 through 17. And is it on the paper? I must have not corrected it on mine. I didn't correct it on mine, so you ladies are good, okay? So John 6, 1 through 17, the other passage is Matthew 14, 13 through 23, if you want to look that up, because that's another reference that they have in here, okay? So John 6, 1 through 17 says, after these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a great multitude followed him because they saw his miracles, which he did on them that were diseased. And Jesus went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh. When Jesus then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come unto him, he saith unto Philip, Whence shall we buy bread that these may eat? And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do. You know, because Jesus is all-knowing, and he already knows what's going to be done. But, you know, us who don't know anything, except for, like, the moment it happens, we're kind of like, what are we going to do? But you know what? Jesus provides in the unique time possible. He knows when he needs to do a miracle. Well, Philip answered him, 200 penny worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of the disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, saith unto him, there is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes, but what are they among so many? And Jesus said, make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed the disciples and the disciples to them that were set down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they would. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Verse 13. Therefore they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the miracle that Jesus did, said, this is of a truth, that prophet that should come into the world. When Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again into a mountain himself alone. And when even was now come, his disciples sat down unto the sea. Verse 17. And entered into a ship and went over the sea toward Capernaum, and it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. Well, that's an amazing miracle that Jesus did on that day. I mean, could you imagine what that little boy did? Stood there and just like, probably just big eyes and his mouth wide open. Like, how could he, I mean, how big do you think the barley loaves were? Maybe that big? Maybe? I don't know, because I didn't live back then, so I don't know how big their bread. I mean, you know, nowadays you could make a homemade loaf that's about this big, you know. But how big were they? I mean, 2 small fishes, or maybe they were round, or maybe they were a bread bowl. No, I don't know. But 2 small fishes, I think of small bluegill, you know. Bluegills aren't fat, you know. They're these skinny little things. But he had just 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes for his lunch. And so God took that. Well, let's look into this. Well, a young boy looked across the deserted shore of the Sea of Galilee, but it was not deserted that day. I mean, I wonder how many times that little boy came to that area and it was empty. But then you look, then he goes that day, Susan, and he looks and, oh my word, it's packed. You know, you think of the biggest Sunday that we've had here at this church, probably a little bigger than that. Oh wait, a lot bigger than that because it was 5,000, right? So, you know, do you think 5 loaves, barley loaves, and 2 small fishes would feed 5,000? No. No. But it was, yeah. So it wasn't just men, it was women and children as well. And you know, all of them were sitting and watching Jesus speak. I mean, if Jesus was here, I would say, Jesus, no, you come teach, because I want to learn from you. You know, but Jesus isn't here in person. He's using me to help teach you ladies. But I can't do any miracles that Jesus can do, okay? So if you're waiting for one of those things, it's not happening today. So I'm sorry, okay? If you would like to join pastor's class, go ahead. If not, then stay in here and just listen to the word of God, okay? There are some times I wish I could do miracles, but I can't, you know. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that, because I was going to say something about my daughter, you know, but I'll just leave it at that for now. The boy squeezed his way to the very front of the crowd. I mean, probably a little 5-year-old, 7-year-old maybe. Who knows? I don't know, because it doesn't say how old. And so he was just worming his way into the crowd, trying to get as close to Jesus as he could. And you know what? He found his way up there. And he was just in awe. Jesus spoke to the great multitude. He taught them outstanding truths about God, heaven, and how the people could go to heaven. That morning, the young boy was thrilled to hear the words that Jesus spoke, that he didn't even notice that it was lunchtime. Well, everybody seemed to forget all about lunch. It didn't even occur to him that the afternoon had come and was almost gone. How many of you have done that, where you're busy getting some, maybe working, or you're at your house trying to get stuff done or ready for spring, and then you look and you're like, what, it's already 2 o'clock? I need to go eat something before I keel over, you know? I've done that multiple times, and then at like 12, and then I'm so busy I don't realize I'm hungry. And then when I sit down, I'm like, whoa, I need to eat. What time is it? And then I'm looking, I'm like, it's 1 o'clock. I'm like, whoops. And we're eating dinner at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm like, well, I gotta just eat a small something or other because I want to be hungry for dinner. You know, well, these people, they were so enthralled with Jesus speaking that they didn't even realize what time it was, because they were so captivated by the greatest teacher that ever lived, or that was here on earth. Well, the disciples tell Jesus, the people have no bread. There's no bread. You know, well, if there is, there's not enough to go around. Well, the boys saw 2 disciples talking with Jesus, and he was close enough that he could hear that the disciples were telling him, there's no food. They said that this is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away, that they may go into the country round about and into the villages and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. Then the boy heard Jesus reply, they need not to depart. Give ye them to eat. The disciples were probably sitting there like, what? You know, 200 penny loaf of bread is not sufficient enough for them. Okay, so like 4 pieces of bread, is not good enough for that many people. That every one of them may take a little. Well, what, they get like a little ball of bread? You know, a little piece of the bread. Here, pass it around. You know, let's see how many people we can feed. You know, and my kids do not like eating the crust of the bread. I'm like, excuse me, eat it. If you don't eat all your bread, you're not going to be as full. I don't like the crust, although they've been doing a lot better with the crust. Although they've been doing better with the bread of the crust. It's still the pizza crust that they don't like. I'm like, whose child are you? Because I would eat everything. And so would Joe. So they're not my children when it comes to pizza. Donna, seriously. But anyway, I don't like it. You know, there's a lot of people in this world that would love to have that part because they don't have anything else. But anyway, they didn't have enough money in their treasury to buy food for so many people. Well, and where were they going to buy it? They were in the wilderness. Exactly, Susan. It's like, what, go find worms underneath the rock? No thanks. Go find a cricket? Well, people do eat crickets, gross, but you know, that's part of where they live and part of their culture. Well, Jesus already knew, right? Dolores, he already knew what he was going to do. He was going to feed those 5,000 people, okay? He was testing their faith. How many of us have had our faith tested? Maybe recently, maybe with some medical things that were told to you that you need to get taken care of. Or you had to make a decision and have faith in your husband for saying maybe you should just stay home from something because you need to get better? Right? I just was talking to Dee about this. And I said, okay, I will stay home. And I was crying because I was going to help my husband with something this tomorrow and Tuesday. I was going to help speak at Camp Kobiak for their leadership conference. And I was like, I think it would be best if I do stay home so I could get the rest of the way better, so I could get the rest I need so I can get better. Because if I'm up there, Susan, I'm running around not being able to get the good rest I need. And so I was crying. He goes, well, why are you upset? I said, because I want to be able to help people. And I can't help people if I'm not there. He goes, but Kyla, the most important thing is for you to get healthy. So if I go down, we're not both down, then we won't be able to take care of our kids. It's like, yeah, okay. So I was like, okay. I didn't like making that decision, but I had faith that my husband's correct. I don't like it, but I need to listen. Just like you, we need to listen to what God has for us, okay? Well, the boy who was standing there eavesdropping offers his lunch. His mother had packed it that morning for him, but he had almost forgotten about it. Excitingly, he stepped up to Andrew, one of his disciples, and offered to give his lunch to Jesus. Andrew smiled and led the boy to Jesus. There is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes, he said. But what are they among so many? How many of you have had to make a meal for like a big family reunion or a birthday party or something, and you're like, I hope I have enough food, and then people get eating, you're like, I don't have enough food, and you start trying, your wheels are turning, and you're like, what am I gonna do? Because I have nothing else prepared. Because for some reason you had 1 or 2 people come that weren't planning on coming or didn't tell you that they were coming. I've had that multiple times. Oh, okay, what am I gonna do? Have it delivered, And so I'm just like, what am I gonna do? So I go frantic, Monica. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Well, I trust that the Lord has it under control. And I'm like, honey, what am I gonna do? He goes, well, let's do this, this, and this for the kids so we have more of this food for the adults. I'm like, okay, we'll make it happen. So now I have to realize that there's 5 of my family, and then all the rest of my family that comes, it's like, am I going to have enough? So I overcook. And then if I overcook, that's fine, because then I have leftovers for the next, 2 days to eat. Although my children are, I don't want leftovers. Well, that's what we have. That's what we're offering. So deal with it and just eat it, So I don't have to make something extra. But anyway, this boy was just like, here, take mine. So Jesus looked at this young boy with his bright and eager face and thanked him. Then he turned to the disciples and said, make the men sit down. And they made the people sit down in groups of 50 or 100. This teaches us that God works in an orderly and organized way. How many of us wish we could be more orderly and organized? Don't be ashamed, ladies, to raise your hand, okay? I will be the first one. You're like, well, you have 3 small kids. Well, yes, but they're not so small anymore. And I still want to be neat and orderly and organized, but they have toys galore that I'm sure more than 500 of their toys are broken or misplacing things. So yeah, guess what this mama has to do once school's done? Yep, you thought of it. You read my mind. I have to go through all their toys, Dee. Yeah. I don't want to get rid of it. Too bad. You all don't play with it. I will play with it.
Yeah, right.
So I need to do it have them sleep over at Papa's house. And Joe and I can do it when they're not there so we can actually get stuff out. Well, what about if our cousins come over? We still have plenty of toys. Just saying. But Jesus is organized. And you know, the Bible says do everything decently and in order. It says it in the Bible. Just if you haven't seen that yet, it's in the Bible. I can't remember the reference, but it's in there. I've read it multiple times, and I actually had to write it out in school like 50 times. Yep. I'll tell you more about that part later. Well, Jesus blesses and breaks the lunch. Oh, what does that mean? Jesus blesses the lunch. That means he prays. He prays over the food. Yeah, he doesn't just dive right in and start stuffing his face full of food. He actually prays about it. He prayed and thanked his Father for the 5 pieces of bread and the 2 fishes. He set a wonderful example for us, showing us that we should always thank God for our food, no matter where we are or how much we have. Jesus then began to break the bread and the fishes into pieces and give them to his disciples to distribute among the people. Well, the strange thing was that no matter how much food he broke off, there was always more food left. Wouldn't that be awesome how it worked? You go to your snack cabinet, because she has tons of snacks. Ask her about her snack bag from our ladies' conference, or our ladies' thing that we went to a couple weeks ago. It was amazing. But anyway, she goes to her snack cabinet and she sees her bag of pretzels are almost empty. So she breaks little pieces off so she can, savor the pretzels. I don't know if that's her favorite snack, but it's one of mine, okay? And then all of a sudden she looks and her bag's full. What? How'd that happen? I didn't even have to go buy some more. Woo! Wouldn't that be amazing? Your favorite snack or your favorite drink or whatever it is, you have more of it than what you thought you would have. You're like, I don't need to spend more money to go get my favorite snack or my favorite coffee drink. I have more than enough I need. Well, that's what Jesus was doing with this little boy's lunch. The boy was seeing a miracle that took place right before his eyes. Amazing. I would have loved to have been there for any of his miracles. He'd surely tell his mother about the miracle Jesus did with that little lunch that his mom prepared for him. This would be something he would never forget. Was there something ever in your life, ladies, that Jesus did for you that you will remember forever, for as long as you're alive? Oh, yeah. Maybe sometime today or this week, find a friend, call a friend, maybe in this class, and tell them what God did for you. Because you know what, Dee? I'm sure it would encourage someone like a Pearl or a Susie if you told them, hey, God did this for me today. What did God do for you today? Do you know how many people would be blessed to hear that? Just saying, you could take it or leave it, but I would highly recommend doing something like that. Well, the disciples gave the food out. Soon all the disciples were carrying food to the people as fast as they could walk up and down the hillside. Time and again, they came back for more. And there was always more bread and more fish waiting for them as it came from the hands of the Lord Jesus. The boy, the disciples, and the people looked on in astonishment. They were just amazed. I'm sure all of them, their eyes were this big, and their mouths were catching flies because it was open so big, Well, this was indeed the God who had made the world and hung it on nothing. It frustrates me when people don't believe that God created the world in 7 days. I had a young lady years ago talk to me. She goes, Miss Kyla, she goes, did God really make, in 7 days as it created Earth? I was like, yes. It says so right in the Bible. She goes, but my teacher says, there it is. My teacher says this. He's like, well, your teacher's wrong. I said, look in the Bible. I said, you know this. You've heard it in classes. You've heard it from pastor. You've heard it from me. You know it's correct. You know what the Bible says is true. But it's hard to believe it. You have to have faith. Okay? So they distributed the food. Do you know that what Jesus did with the boys' lunch is what God did, or that what God today still does with the money, the time, and the talents that we give to him? He takes the little that we have and multiplies it in a marvelous way to help others through the gospel and to be fed on the truths of Jesus, the bread of life. You know, God gave Susan a beautiful voice. And now she's using it. She'll be singing today, which I'm excited to hear because I love the song she picked for today. But she's using her voice to honor and glorify God. And you know what? When she sings today, listen to the words. I think Pastor Joe's going to have it on the screen. So listen to the words she's saying and look up at the screen and watch the words on the screen. It'll bless you. Can guarantee it. But God uses our talents for his purpose, for his glory. Because, you know, there are so many people in here that have talents that they don't use. And you know what? You need to ask God, how can you use those talents to help glorify him? Well, the disciples, you know, after the disciples gather up all the food and they take it to Jesus, the disciples then loaded it up to put on their boats for when they go out fishing, so they have something to eat while they're out on the boat. If you've ever been boating in the hot sun, you get hungry. You get thirsty. You need nourishment, okay, to help you have the energy to continue to fish. My family loves fishing, and so whenever we go out, we always bring snacks and water and water and water and Powerade. But Jesus then sends the crowd home. The disciples loaded the 12 baskets of leftover food onto their boat. By now, it was near the end of the day, and it would soon be dark. And Jesus told his disciples to get to their boat and cross over to the other side of the lake while he got all the people started on their way home. Some were reluctant to leave because they wanted to make Jesus their king then and there. A man who would provide free meals like this was a very person they were looking for to be king of Israel. But Jesus did not come from heaven to be their king. He came from heaven to be their savior. Finally, all the people left, and then Jesus went up into the mountain to pray alone. There on the mountain, in the darkness, God the Son began to talk to God the Father. You see, you say, if Jesus is God, why did he pray? Well, would he not have been talking to himself? Remember that God is a Trinity. He's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, okay? He's 3 in 1. You and I often in our minds talk things over with ourselves, right? Sometimes out loud, and some people probably looking at you like, who are you talking to? Sorry, I'm talking to myself, but I'm talking out loud, okay? So, Stephen, he would comment. He goes, well, I was talking to myself. I'm like, well, talk to yourself quietly, like in your head, quietly. He goes, well, I was. No, you weren't talking to yourself because we all heard. So if you want to talk to yourself, just shh. Okay. There, I'll just say that from now. I'm intelligent. That's why I'm talking out loud. So, you know. So it should not seem so uncommon that God, the Son, would want to talk things over with God, the Father. Well, what did Jesus talk to God, the Father, about that night? We don't know because the Bible doesn't say. It's private. Okay? So God can be private. Jesus can be private too. He can do what he wants because he's Jesus. On another occasion, however, we know that he talked with God the Father about the day when he, the Son, would go to Calvary to give his life for us. And he prayed for those who would become the sheep of his pasture. As Jesus continued praying that night, the stars came out and the night wore on. And while Jesus was praying on the mountain, the disciples were rowing hard in their little boat, hoping they would soon cover the 3 or 4 miles that lay between them and the opposite shore. However, they did not know that they would again, even that night, see the power of God in a wonderful way. But when the boat was out in the middle of the sea, oh, guess what? Yep, you guessed it. A violent storm occurred and swept across the lake. Well, let me just tell you, the Lord works in mysterious ways, wonderful ways, unique ways, but he works. Hence the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000. Just imagine what God, Jesus, can do with your talents, with your gifts that he has given you. Well, I can't teach, but I can do this. Do it. Because you know what? It's helpful. I can't teach, but I can call people on the phone and say, hey, would you come and be my friend for our ladies' brunch on the 29th? And if they can't, that's okay. Just say, hey, can you come be my friend, my guest on that Sunday for our Revival Sunday? Well, I don't like talking to people on the phone. Okay, well, how about you write them a letter? Encourage them to come out. Like I said earlier, how about you call someone up and say, hey, God did this for me today. What did God do for you? Okay? Let us go ahead and I'll pray real quick. And then I will go over, just a few minutes, I will go over this new curriculum that we're going to do real quick. Now, is there any lady in here that did not get a book but would like a book for this new series that we're going to start next week? Think about it, and then I'll pray, and then